Uganda's most respected wellness brands, while proving that family business can adopt world-class systems and thrive across generations. As you know, most of our businesses in Africa always fail when the founders die, but in this case, the Republic has changed that trend. In 2020, together with his wife, Christine Nabosa Bugingo, he co-founded Danny Swift Company Limited, a human capital and recruitment consultancy that has placed hundreds of young professionals into meaningful careers and helped dozens of small SMEs and corporations build stronger, future-ready teams. He went to Kampala Parents. As you are aware, he's a leader, and Kampala Parents School for his primary, where he was a library prefect. So his leadership started way back when he went to St. Mary's College, Kisubi. He served as a timekeeper, French club president, drama club president, house prefect, and then head prefect. He's a seasoned academician, done public lectures, marketing and French at Makerere University Business School. He's educated, holds a first-class honors Bachelor's of Science in Marketing from MOOPS, where he also served as a guild president. Has professional certification from Chartered Institute of Marketing and a Master's of Science in Marketing with the honors from Montpellier Business School in France. His civic footprint is equally of purpose. He's a past president of the Rotary Club of Kansanga and also led the Uganda-France Alumni Society as an inaugural president. In 2023, the New Vision named him among Uganda's top 40 under 40 in recognition of his contribution to business education and society. In 2024, he was elected as a Mandela Washington Fellow. He completed his business leadership track at Rutgers University in New Jersey and was chosen to deliver an Ignite talk at MWF Summit in 2024 in Washington, D.C. He now serves as the president of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Network of Uganda, a community of over 300 Mandela Washington Fellows across the country. He's married, he's a father and a mentor to many. He spends much of his time speaking to young people like us and family business owners, who some of us are, about building sustainable growth, personal branding and leadership that places people before profit. He believes in a journey of principled action, turning opportunities into platforms into impact, and impact into possibility for the next generation. For the amazing session that we are going to have, and for the mindset that we are going to live with, join me in welcoming our dear guest, Don Patrick.
Good morning. Yes, thank you so much for the very good introduction, Barata. And to the leadership that has organized this session, I really appreciate you. To all of us who have come here, I thank you for choosing to spend your weekend this way, because I think there will be value for you. I just feel really bad for our colleague who is hard of hearing. I don't know how this quality will be shared to him. It's a challenge for the organizers to really see that there's something we can do. There's a platform on Google where it can transcribe words that are being said. If you can try to do that for him, it would be nice. So that he can see at least the words that are being said. Okay? So if someone can help with that, it would be nice. I think you can try either Google or something where you can really be able to see the words. So otherwise I feel bad that someone in the room is a bit in the family. So in 2023, around October, I found myself on a bus in the middle of the night. Nile Star. You've heard of that bus? The company? I find myself on Nile Star in the middle of the night on a trip to Yumbe. Yumbe district is in the northwest part of the country. You're almost crossing the border into Sudan. Now, that journey was a very, very purposeful journey because I was actually heading to Bidi refugee camp. And Aloysia Organic, the family business that I did now, had just secured an opportunity to impact the people in the refugee camp, and specifically the refugees, to get them into an entrepreneurial spirit, and specifically to skill them. Now, on my way there, I only thought this was because they probably needed something to do as the refugees in that space. And as you may all know, being a refugee is not a status that one acquires per se from birth or whatsoever. It's not a permanent status. It's one that all of us would easily find ourselves in. So I remember I got there towards the morning. Very, very unique environment, quite different, quite hot. And it dawned on me that now I had actually arrived at one of the farthermost parts of the country, towards the northwest. And there we were with the team, ready to hold a session to build value for them. Now, when I began to interact with the people in the community, I figured that a refugee community or a camp like Bidi has two categories of people. One, you have the refugees, but on the other hand, you also have the refugee hosting community that many call the host community. Now, if you think about it and try to put yourselves in the shoes of the people that have been in these communities before, then you have a set of new people coming in. There's a tendency of some friction because you've been in the place for a long while and then somebody else comes in. And then for some reason, there tends to be so much attention to this person that has just come. And yourselves in the community, you also don't have businesses, you also barely have anything to feed your children. But the ones that have come in have some value. They have donors that are giving them money. They're being prioritized. Now all of a sudden everyone is concerned about how they need jobs. So that's what goes on in the minds of the host community. Now why I begin with this story is mainly because of the alignment of what we are talking about today. That little did I know that one of the biggest challenges in the refugee camp, besides what many think, the food, resources, name it, it's actually to survive. That's the first thing that people in the refugee camps are actually looking out for, is to survive. Now, to survive will mean that you don't survive at an individual level per se, but you're existing within a community. Remember, there's a host community as well. So what I figured was that one of the biggest reasons people will conflict and hence create an absence for peace is simply something that can be answered by one unique thing, and that's entrepreneurship. Now that's when I learned on my journey to that trip and to that destination that entrepreneurship can actually be an agent or a tool for peace. That's what justifies the need for the talk I'm giving you today and the engagement we'll have and the interaction we'll share together. So most importantly, I learned that people can actually conflict because they're idle. People can actually conflict because of resources. In that very moment, because no one has something specific they're doing, everything that is brought in as a donation causes conflict. So uniquely, I need us to now think of entrepreneurship at that scale. That it has the capacity to actually be an agent and a tool for peace. If people have things that they do, and if people have things that they consider of value, and if people have things that bring in money into their pocket. So we successfully held the training. We trained them in a number of things: cosmetics, entrepreneurship, managing money, finances, name it. And all those things were beneficial to them because from there, if the community had what they are doing and they could sell, the same with the host community and they could sell, then there was going to be value. Now, if you think about that level of where one gets into entrepreneurship because of a challenge, because of a need, you should ask yourself, why does it have to be the case? Why does it have to be the case? That we become entrepreneurs because of need, because you have nothing to eat, because it's a survival move. Why does it have to be the case? That you start a small business in the backyard just because you have to. Otherwise, you'll sleep hungry. Now, the challenge of getting into entrepreneurship in that way is that you don't get to appreciate the background story behind it. You only get into it because, you know what, I have to do this. I have to. Now, uniquely, I'll share something with you. When we were in school, you realize in school we were taught to respond to questions, isn't it? In school, it was about knowing the answer to the questions. Now, very, very uniquely and very importantly, besides knowing what the answer is, at this age, I now want to challenge you. Who then asked? Because at that point, our only role was to answer. In school, if you know the answers, you're smart, isn't it? If you respond to the answer correctly, you pass, isn't it? And if you have the biggest number of the correct answers, you have qualified. But awakening our entrepreneurial mindset requires that we now become the ones that ask the questions. Not just the ones that give the answers, but the ones that ask the questions. Now, the challenge with what the education system did to us is that it never challenged us to question things. It never. It challenged you to know the answers, and so we even went back, because of how the system is designed, to even get to pass PLE and pass USC. You remember those booklets? Mm-hmm. To look at past questions, just so you can have the answers even to those past questions, just so that even if they come again, you will then pass. But what's the goal of life? It's not just to find answers to a question. We must develop this mindset where we question things. And that's what now links the entrepreneurial spirit to curiosity. You must be curious. You must be very, very curious. Because every time you drive that curiosity, you start to question things. Don't be comfortable in what is. Please be very, very mindful that you need to ask questions. And sometimes, those questions, you ask them to yourself. Because that's one of the avenues in which you build knowledge. So guess what happens when people walk out of school? Some of us stop learning. Why? Because nobody's asking us questions anymore. The questions ended in school. But is that where learning should stop? Because the teacher used to come and say, so what is? Who can define? What are the 3 factors that encourage? You remember? And if you had them at your fingertips, oh, you were smart. So the world now brings us to another shift where we are being asked to be with a new mindset. Unfortunately, for now, don't wait for the world to ask questions. Ask those questions yourself. That's how you learn. If you want to build your entrepreneurial spirit, please don't just stop at looking at the tiles. Ask yourself what these tiles are and why they decided to use tiles in this room. And most importantly, ask yourself, what are these tiles made of? What material are these tiles made of? Where could these tiles have been made? And what's the cost of these tiles? What's the cost of a box of tiles, for example? You see, it's until we derive and build that mindset of being curious, of building knowledge, by asking ourselves questions about the things that we completely see as ordinary, that we learn to enhance and spark that entrepreneurial spirit in ourselves. And one would wonder why that's relevant in. But before I come to why that's relevant, I will give you another example. When you walk into a room like this one, and you see a pull-up banner like this one, it's important for you to ask yourself questions in your mind. Why is this pull-up banner being used? What value does it give to the people that bought or made this pull-up banner? Where was this pull-up banner made? And how many people, professionals, put effort together to get this banner? Somebody must have thought of the logo, the positive. Somebody must have designed this. Somebody must have printed it. When you ask yourself who made the banner, there's a graphic designer behind it. There's probably leadership, the organization. There's a possibility that it was done or made somewhere at NASA. But that's not where your questions should end. Where does this material actually come from? Is it made in Uganda? If not, where does it come from? When you ask yourself those questions from the ordinary basic things of life, you'll build knowledge about the things that many people consider simple. Because why is this important? Because if you look around you, everything you see is a business. Everything you look at around you is an entrepreneurship venture. It's an opportunity that you can take up, but only if you understand. If you question yourself why some people are great entrepreneurs and maybe some are not, even when I'm personally still in search of that answer, I will tell you what I have known, at least what I know by now. It's a question of knowledge. What some people know, what some people don't know. Full stop. What some people know and what some people don't know. Because you walk around, everyone is doing business in different forms. There are people who are selling gadgets, phones, equipment, name it. Somebody else is in beddings, selling, bed covers, bed sheets, and they're doing their business there. Somebody else is running a social entrepreneurship venture. They're doing well. Somebody else is importing cars, and they're doing well. Somebody else is a carpenter. They're making products out of wood, and they're doing their business. Other people are in education, like Harvard, and they're doing it. So what exactly is the difference? I honestly want to believe it's a question of knowledge. What some people know, what some people don't know. Now, how can you build that knowledge? It's everything I've explained to you before. You need to be curious. Don't just look at things and end there. Just yesterday, we were celebrating Eid, and I only got to learn that abaya that the ladies were wearing, many of them, I'm told the good one was ranging between how much?
300
to 1 million shillings. Material is what we're selling. Now, where that material comes from, many of us don't know. The person that knows where the material is sourced, at how much, and how they can get it here quickly, is the one doing that business. It's a question of knowledge. My ask and question to you is, what do you know about it? Besides what you learned in school, besides what you're learning at law school, besides what you know from home, or what you watch on your phone. Like, what do you know? That entrepreneurship spirit is driven by knowledge. I am building that difference from the one that has to be built from need. Because unfortunately, for entrepreneurship spirit built from need, you may not build as much knowledge. You might build some experience over time, but there will be a lot of learning to do. And hence, there will also be a lot of losing or losses to make. But if you build your knowledge on the simplest of things, you will know so much. And I bring you back in the room. The things you see around you, how much do you know about them? How much do you know about, for example, the chairs you sit on? Do you imagine the cost it takes to get that chair made? And how much it sells at the market? We're in a room where some people have equipment, cameras, name, you know the price of a Canon of a certain make, the bags you're carrying, besides their price, you know where they are bought, where you bought them, yes, where you sourced them, but you know where they come from, where they are made. I want us to ask ourselves this question because that's where the value is actually made, built. That's why the knowledge gap keeps growing. When you look in this room, this simple stand was probably bought by somebody selling stationery. Do you know where it comes from? Do you know how much it's sold at? Do you know how much it's bought at? Do you know the margin that the person makes? So I'm really asking us a question. The things that many people consider simple. Again, I want to remind you that in my belief to date, I am still on the hunt for these answers. But I generally believe one of the biggest differentiators in business and entrepreneurship is the knowledge gap. Some people know some things that many other people don't. So my question to you is, how best can you build what you know now? I am asking us to look around ourselves, where we come from, our environment, name it. Every time you question, you will keep seeing the gaps that exist in society, that some people will look at and be comfortable with. If you've heard, for example, that Steve Jobs decided to start working on the very phone the iPhones are so proud of today and really love to hold, and every new version that comes up with, right? The phone with no button. He decided to create that phone before anybody ever demanded it. Nobody ever said you're tired of these phones with buttons. Because we were happy with having a phone anyway, just a phone. But he chose to move ahead of demand and create something. That's about you continuously questioning what is. Don't be comfortable with what is, because the things could actually be better. Somebody could be thriving in a very big business. That's why they ask us not to be comfortable in business as well. Someone will come in with something completely unique because it's what you're taking over the market and just does a small shift and you're off the market. So I'm challenging us, you might be in school, maybe you're home, you're done with school, maybe you're working somewhere, but look around yourself and start asking questions. Start asking questions. The scarf you're wearing, it's important to just not know the fact that you bought it. But ask yourself where the scarf could have possibly been made. Do you know the name of the material of that scarf? And the process it goes through to become that? And which country it was made? These things allow you to understand what value is. And please remember, every other time you think of yourself as an individual, you're part of an ecosystem. So the entrepreneurship spirit really reminds us that you're just not an individual, you're part of something bigger. Now, if you start asking yourself these questions from a smaller perspective, please be aware of what is happening in the larger perspective. There's a war happening between Iran right now and the US. It's important for you to think of how this is actually affecting or might affect a number of things. But before that, it's even more vital for you to keep informed about what's happening in that war. How Iran contributes to the movement of oil across and how the world will probably get to Asia. How that might influence fuel prices. How that gets to so many things. And like I mentioned, if you look around, everybody is doing business, but somehow they are all keeping their business alive. People in transport, people doing taxis, some are border borders, some are buses. How does it happen that all these people coexist? There's value. So now back to you as individuals. I don't know if you're running a business, maybe not yet, but question the things that exist, the things that are, and be observant. Look around you and observe. I've always believed that money is really much aligned with value and it will flow towards value. If you go in town and look at how people do trading, for example, somebody has given me this unique example. If you go downtown towards Bugingo, there's a cost of a shoe. Yeah? And if you move that shoe just one street upwards, it's going to increase in terms of cost. You move it one street again upwards, it will become more expensive. Take it to Bombo Road, it's going to be another. Take it to Buganda Road, like it's a question of who knows something that somebody else does not know. So people bring items from places where they are much affordable and position them in unique ways for people who can buy them, because they know that the people who are at this end can afford these and don't have the time to go downtown. Where people trade things and bring maize from far and wide in Masindi and bring it to Kampala. The same maize, but sells differently in a different place. So society has many problems and many challenges, but you have solutions, but only if you challenge yourself to continuously ask questions and question what is. Don't be comfortable with what people have done or what is. So before I get into our exchange and our interaction, I want to end with this. So there are many things that have been created, and there are several things that are yet to be created. But entrepreneurship for us is a very big game changer. In a society where we are now challenged with young people, over 3/4 of our country being young people, many of them either in school, some not in school or even any form of training, and are now looking for jobs and opportunities. You could create value. You could create value out of that. You could create value out of yourself or out of something that many people consider ordinary. But question, continuously question what is. Okay? And position yourselves well as young people, because the entrepreneurship spirit calls for people who are zealous, who are resilient, people who are go-getters. Okay? I'll need us to share your personal experience, where you are at. If you've ever had a business idea, if you've never, it's still very fun. If you've had one that collapsed, it's still very okay. We'll be happy to hear about that. And most importantly, if there's one you want to do. So that's what I would like to hear from you now. If there's any way I can be able to help or advise, I will do it now. So anyone in the room who has ever started any business or entrepreneurship venture? Yes. Timothy, Johnny, please share.
Thank you. I started business was about to do supplying food to the schools. Precaution, but this is very that normally comes in not our schools. They supply them, but they take a little time to pay. And you find also that a person that you have joined with to supply, if it's a private school, anytime can be settled. Or in the later way, one day come out and say, okay, school. And you know you have evidence that you demand the school. And they say you deal with the other ones. So you find that your capital is $80. And yet other schools are also demanding, you end up
The challenge. Because that's what we're doing was really value focused and oriented. And I do not know the process you went through to select the schools, but sometimes as business owners, when you're looking at people you either supply or work with, there's a need to do some background checks. Either with people who have also done business with those people, just to be certain that they are really people you can rely on. Okay. So the people you can rely on sometimes, we're all in the same market, okay? But not all of us have the same ethics, integrity, name. Even many of us who are in business, not the same ethical grounding. People are there, but they'll rip you off. They'll rip you off like any day. So maybe, I think my biggest recommendation would be, you'd rather have fewer schools that buy more from you in terms of quantity, and especially those that are here with some bit of reputation. So I would really recommend that you do some background checks every time you're putting a new school. Business has its ups and downs, so like any business, yes, schools will face challenges, but it's nice that you work with a school like whose leadership you really trust, and with where maybe other suppliers have also really given that benefit of doubt that that's somebody you can trust, like run with them. So not just those that need Because you even offer those, periods where you can say you can pay me after maybe 2 weeks or a month or something, but still some people default. So I think a background check would be great for you to look at those schools, like do a real audit. Find people who supply them and also ask them. Because it means if they're not paying you, they're not paying people who are giving them stationery, who are giving them uniforms, who are supplying other small little items. So please do the background checks. I'm happy to have fewer clients who buy more from you than the many who. And also, you can now see how over time, I don't know, you want to do a bit of value addition where you are. Now, you can see how you can change your clientele. Schools are great, but you can now just do the real trading. Yeah, where you either just sell to other people and they look for them end customers, where you're only in the middle here. You're doing the value addition, you sell to somebody else in product who now looks for the market. So one thing I've learned also in business is that you shouldn't really struggle to do it all. Over time, you may start a business that does maybe manufacturing or that packaging, and then you still find the customers. But then over time, when you scale, maybe also you want to go because you now want to get into the machines and so on. You now build strength and capacity in the manufacturing, and every other person will struggle to look for the market. For you, your strength becomes the manufacturing. People will come and buy from you. Even the schools will now come to buy from directly. So, but it's a journey of learning, I think. But scale down and assess risk a bit. So my biggest recommendation for you is build the intelligence on the schools that you have. Do some background checks with suppliers who have supplied them. Have a bit of confirmation that this is a school I can. And also now raise the bar in terms of the schools you're working with. Because sometimes you might just be dealing with the schools because they're accountable with how much I give them or the mileage, but you could even choose to go ambitious for the bigger schools. You could even choose to have one school that just buys enough from it that the 8 were buying. But doing one school that's a reputable school can buy from you and you still comfortable. So there's just that dynamic. But keep going. Okay, so I think I'll just give you an example of, again, it comes back to knowledge in terms of who we know and what we know. Yeah. So you find yourselves in the same market with those people because you're probably sitting with the same people. Okay? You're sitting with the same people, probably. But about a week ago, I had a meeting at DHL, Uganda, and we had an interaction with the country lead. And together with his team, I just appreciated something. You see how people export, for example, coffee in large quantities and so on. So I got to learn that there was this one customer of DHL that simply packages and has unique clients in different markets that just buys some fine premium coffee. Maybe a client can buy about 100 kgs in a year, and that's it. But they pay a very premium price because of the quality that he puts into this product, because of the value that he gives the client. So sometimes you might just need to change the market you are selling to, or the person you are doing the business with. I've seen people that have gone an extra mile to engage restaurants directly and say, can we work together and partner on this matter? You move chicken, I have the bags, and this is how much I can give you per this period of the year. Can I just supply you directly? They might give you their conditions, make sure for us the chicken should be fed like this. This is the price we'll buy at. Sometimes you might need to just push yourself out there a bit more to look at the alternative markets. Because if you stay in the same market, I can tell you, it will be a struggle. That's why people move matoke from Barara and bring it to Kampala and sell it at a different price. That same matoke, some people peel it, put it in bags, and even sell it more expensive. Like it's just now, that's even more expensive now. Some people cook it and refine it in restaurants and pay even higher for that. Because you can imagine that people buy a plate of food that has been prepared at almost the same price as a bunch of matoke that you can't even eat alone, maybe in a week or something. So that just shows the element of value. So you can choose to maybe have a different ball game comparative to the way you're competing with. Because it's in the same product, the competition won't be the same. You could change and go hunt for some more customers or some other people in different fields where you can actually transfer the value. So because over time you find that person has more capacity. If he's the one who even does feeds, meaning he feeds them at cheaper costs. If he's the one that's giving you the chicks, meaning they're also giving you. I mean, for them they are raising the birds at a cheaper cost compared to you. So on the market, even if you have the same price, you'll still be making more money compared to you. But please look out for different markets. Look at how you can venture to different unique markets. Never know you can find value there. Thank you. Got it. Anyone else that has done business or attempted to do a business, to run a business? Together, both done poetry. But I think sometimes in entrepreneurship, the lessons will be learned on the job. Okay? You're never going to any class and they teach you see chickens if you do this. Right? Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you must make some losses because over time you learn. Oh, okay, fine. I was okay doing. Maybe I'm overfeeding. Maybe I'm sourcing wrong. Maybe I'm. But it would also not be something I really encourage everyone for you to start, especially start a business that you're not going to be involved in directly. Even if you're very passionate about it, it's just a bit hard. The person you're going to put in that business doesn't see and have the same value for the business like yourself. They're not going to invest money, they won't find chicks, in a room, place, everything done, and then they just look after them. They have no idea how much you've invested. They don't have the same kind of passion that you do to the business. So they don't really give you the best. Unless you're going to be there. I'm a very, very passionate person about farming. I love cows and I'm rearing cattle. But I've learned my lessons over the years. Every time you do a business that you're going to be a part of or involved in, it's a bit challenging and risky. The people you're going to put there don't afford the same value to that business. But while you are communicating, I wanted to also really just, again, interest us in something, okay? I don't know how many of us have attempted doing service business. Service business, like offering a service, solving a problem through a service. And my experience from running a service business has been that you see the amount of cash flow that is required in running an entity that has products, it has inputs, there are factors of energy around it, a number of so many things around it. It's a bit challenging because even the risk is very high. One of my friends through BNI, I don't know if you've heard of BNI, Business Network International, runs a lending company. That's a service. Okay? And something I've seen about services is that they have a very unique nature. They don't require the same level of investment in terms of input. A number of things you could align. If you could look at society and say, what service can I offer here? People pay for services. Very, very interesting. People pay for people to come and clean for them. They leave them with nothing tangible. Just leave them with a clean house. And they go. People are now slashing people's homes and compounds at a cost. They leave them with nothing but a slashed compound. People are now doing shopping for people in their homes at a fee. They simply give them what they paid for. People are doing so many unique things, fumigation, name it, that are services. People are running social media pages for clients. He doesn't have to live with the client with anything tangible. He just does the work, gets posts moving, drafts calendars, media calendars, name it, posting, and then managing engagement. His KPIs are unique, maybe have this level of engagement, following, so on and so forth. So, as you think about product aligned business in terms of entrepreneurship, please think about services. People really want solutions. So keep asking yourself how you can be of value. The lawyers, people are really doing so many things in terms of creating value there. Because it's another service-based or aligned kind of profession. People want to start companies, they want to register, they want to do that, they want to do the other. That's all a gap where you can tap into and start something. And please don't wait for graduation. Any of us who are still in school, don't wait to graduate to get your whatever transcript. No, just go and start something. Don't just wait for the degree because the degree will even increase the pressure on you. So before the pressure comes, even start something now. So you have time to fail and get to learn a few things. Any other bit? Anyone else that has? Yes. something that is social, aligned or humanity oriented, and the solution is like a public cause. It's nice for you to look at the fact that you can do this not just by yourself, but with other people who can also be involved. So I'll just try to generalize my response in this way. Yeah? That for all of us who are doing a number of courses, even the organizers of these trainings that you're happy to do, you're doing something which is a bit unique. Okay? You're trying to give value, you're trying to position value to other people and to society, young people. So, in that sense, there are companies that are profit-oriented, that are already established, that in their budgets have provisions for things like this. So every time you have something to do that's actually very, very profit-oriented, they don't maybe do a business and clean people's homes, there you can't really get partners. You can't really, because it's your business, it's your private thing. But a thing like that aligns to health, serving maybe the elderly, or it's a very good concept. Now, your challenge is to now curate your vision very clearly and really document this problem well, and then also position a solution for it and what you would like to do. Many companies out there, if you really approach them well, be clear about the kind of problem that the society is facing. Many of these companies under their CSR budgets have provisions to support such things and such causes. So it's about how you can really have a very good concept not put together. Today you have so many tools that can support you with that. You have AI, you have a very good concept not drafted, very good provisions, take pictures, add them if you can. Then approach these companies and these entities. I tell them my name is some young person, I would like to do something about this problem. This is it. Present the problem, tell them what the solution is and how you think they can deal with it. Companies love to be seen doing good. They love to do good as well, but it's what most of them, they love to be seen doing good. It's good for their brands, it's good for their image. So for you, you'll be able to give them that value. I think when I'm done, I will share a link of a project I did under the Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Network. It was at a school called Kampala School for the Physically Handicapped. Very brilliant project where we spent nothing. But companies came in and gave us everything we needed because we were giving something back to humanity. But it really mattered how we presented it. I'll make sure I share it with the organizers so they can drop in the groups and you can really see how we did that. So, all in all, a cause like yours is not one you should really die with alone. It's a societal issue. So you can now look at companies, entities, businesses that you can partner with. They'll fund your concept. They'll give you money, they'll give you value. And you'll agree for it. Yeah. Many things I could say about that business, but firstly I give you credit. You see how we began with our talk, aligning knowledge with entrepreneurship? Before he knew how to make the pizza, there was no business. Because he did have that knowledge. But at that time, was the demand there? Was the demand there? The demand was really there. You see who didn't have the knowledge at that time. The buyers were there, the provisions were there, the potential was there. But it was just you who didn't have the knowledge. When you got the knowledge, now all of a sudden there is a business. There's value and there's a market. But when you moved, which does make sense, I think there are more producers of liquid soap around Kampala than there might be in Uganda or anywhere else. Because the hub is here in Central. And of course, understanding the challenge, they're probably buying the same inputs, in the same suppliers. So everything is really almost the same. So the price is really, and now everybody's learning how to do liquid soap and so on. So it does make sense. How much is a Coca-Cola if you walk out of this place and buy it from somewhere in the shop there? How much is it?
That's okay.
About 1,000. How much is it in Serena?
405.
It's crazy. The same product changes price because of where it is positioned. But I could just walk you back to how you got to where you are. It was thanks to the knowledge you gained. So I want to just show you that sometimes we can learn from our very own experiences and even be better. Now, if you go back to how you learned how to make liquid soap, before you did know, then you learned, and there's a differentiator there. Now, I could challenge you to learn a bit more than you were taught, either with different perfumes and different things like that. Your product will be unique. It could be an input still to a cleaning business. I could challenge you to begin a cleaning business because you're now in that industry, where you being the person that makes the liquid soap, you'll be cleaning at a cheaper cost than the people who buy liquid soap and do cleaning for other people. So, knowledge. I'm challenging you to know more than the people in your industry, and I'm challenging you to diversify a bit more. And people really make advantage of AI. Do you know that in 5 minutes or less right now, we can find a perfect formulation for the manufacturing of a detergent here in this room?
Yes.
Even if none of us has ever probably made any of those products. So I'm challenging you to really go back to the formulation, either see how you can source better or source cheaper, see how that product can become an input to something else, or improve the quality much better and sell to a different caliber of clientele. With the same example of Coca-Cola we talked about, improve the level and sell to, like, play a different game compared to people who are dealing with now. Yes, there's another hand there. Yes, then go. Thank you very much. Well done. Everyone that's doing the business, this circle up is to do with business is not for the paying candidate, that's it. But kudos to you, you did something at campus that many people rarely do. So everybody go to campus and study and work out. But you said it's something. So your business is a seasonal business, or was a seasonal business, because now it's in the past, right? So it was a seasonal business, like many businesses are. Sometimes there are seasons for some businesses, especially if you now selling at campus. Your clientele is like students right now, because you sell to them when they come in, they need, then mid-semester they don't need because they stopped. Then towards the end they really need. So I think, are you still at campus now?
Yeah, still there.
Are you still doing the business?
I left it.
Why? What were you doing with the profits?
Of course, the profits were not enough for me.
Yeah.
To use it paying rent and also sustaining my soul. So I realized again I have to pick from capital to gap up on the rent,
Okay.
which I saw as just something doing nothing actually. So I just had to sell my business and then first pay.
Okay, but I'm wondering how long you did that business for. How long did you do it for?
I did it for a year.
For a year, and you tapped out. But that business was also doing, it was also paying you rent. It was also sustaining you as the person.
Yeah.
And how much capital did you put in at the start?
At the start, I had played, it was 2.8.
2.8. So, okay, sometimes I also agree that sometimes we overweigh the businesses. Like we put so much weight on them, especially because you need a business to cross that break-even mark. Yeah, where you recoup. Did you ever recoup the 2.8?
Yes.
Did you ever recoup the 2.8? Did you ever recover it? Did you ever? No.
I tried, but I didn't recover it because I also sold off the wholesale.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So I think for me, the only thing I really encourage you to continue with is that spirit. Because I love that it's really the entrepreneurial spirit that you've been talking about here. Because you scanned, and you figured there was a need. Okay. Then you realized, okay, these guys come in at this point, I can bring this product, sell to them, then mid-semester, then. But of course, I think maybe because you had also a ton of expenses that you had that were now taking out of the business during that time. Like a business needs to be also be given room to like move, to thrive, to give you that part. But what I can encourage is that just maintain the spirit. It might be hard to get back into the business now because it was a seasonal based business. But because it was also new, I think the expenses would have been on the higher end on it for you to manage both those things. So before the business really gets at the break-even mark, it's a bit challenging for you to really weigh down expenses on it because sometimes you're actually eating onto the capital. That's why food have happened. Because you may find you never had to pay rent because maybe the same place where you used to stay, you used to have your store. We used to either coordinate from somewhere, but when I think about it, it's probably the expenses that killed it. The fact that it was seasonal may not have been a problem, but the fact that it was really dealing with also catering to you, it became challenging. But that eye, for me, is what I find most unique. The eye that you had to see that there are this demand that happens for this product being sold at the same time. Use that. For me, I give you credit for that. And keep that up. In a better scenario, if you could still sustain that business, if it's not having to pay for your rent, or even handle your expenses as a person for a start, I think you can do a good business. So the next time you do it, I think just manage how much also comes from the business, because it really has to also sustain. It has a life. So every time you start eating on the capital, you eat on the capital, you eat on the capital. Because somebody would have said, okay, fine, how much do you get from it? Can you transfer the value in the holidays, when they're in the holidays? Can you now transfer that value to something else? But maybe because the money was not even enough for it, you have probably spent some of it. But that spirit for me is what I really appreciate. It's credit, because not many people do it. So I thought when you go to school, you go to study. So study, then when you're done, you do business. Why can't you study when you're still in school? There's no one that says you can't. Okay, maybe your last one, sorry, because of time, might have to run soon. Yes. Okay, well done. You see, when the zeal to start and register, even if you never did business, is good enough. For me, I give credit for that. So if I'm to ask you right now, that civil engineering or construction business is how old? In registration?
In registration, we registered it in May 2021.
21. So can you say it's maybe 5 years this year?
Pardon?
So can you say it's going to make 5 years this year?
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so
it has not been
it
active.
doesn't actually. No, let me tell you one thing. No one will ever know it was never active. You will add the 5 plus the time when you have resolved to start. They will never know that you never.
Yeah.
You've not been in action. And I really encourage my students, even at the university. I encourage all my students in the business class that please register your businesses early. Start them early, like challenge yourself, register, get your name secured, let it be in existence. Do the filings and so on and so forth. It's a very good decision. So, of course, like the nature of life is that we all kind of have different opportunities, we are heading different paths. People will break away. Were you the vision bearer?
We are two.
You were too.
Then we called it.
So for me, that's and that's okay, by the way, because everyone has their path, and it really also challenges you to question whether actually what you are pursuing is worth it. You get the point, whether it's worth it. So uniquely, what we are looking at now in your case and scenario is, right now you have a job where you're doing something, okay? And do you believe you're learning in that opportunity? Do you believe you're learning?
Yes.
A lot, right? You must be learning a lot. So every time you want to do business, you must remember that there's always going to be a learning phase. So for me, the time you're doing that part where you employ, consider it as your learning phase. Learn as much as you can. Not just in the construction or the detail of the technical bit, because that probably you had some school, now you practice, but try to understand the entire journey of what it takes, first of all, to secure a client, how you build, all that bit of invoicing and so on, the BOQs that you do in construction, to the phase of you getting the job started, that monitoring and evaluation, quality assurance, name it, learn all the details of the process. And I think most importantly, build like a niche. Like build yourself something where you know I'm good or I'm great or I'm the best at this one, at this specific thing. And then trust me, one time you'll start with simple rules. Somebody might send my house painted or something like that. Like, so over time you'll build that. What I can challenge you to do now is learn as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. Remember the person that is employing you, besides the benefit of the fact that they've been here longer, but they know much more than you know. That's why they're your boss now. They have had some experience, they've had some opportunities. So for you, learn from them. And keep observing how you can be a better business person thanks to what they're doing. And even if there are mistakes, learn from them. Okay? So how long have you been there now?
In where am I from?
Where you're working now? Yes.
1 year.
1 year. Honestly, I'm not ask about the pay you get right now, but if you're learning, stay there. If you're learning, if you believe you're learning something, stay there. Even if it takes you around 3, worst case scenario maybe 5 years, stay there and learn. What you can do in the meantime is to continuously build on your little startup company in terms of things that matter to it. It needs to have a website from the little money you're making, put some money aside, save that money, and invest in having a website for that entity. If it has no branding or whatever, try to start some of those things that we will need when the time is right for you to step out. But in the meantime, learn, because there are a lot of learning to do. But the beauty now is that you're learning at the cost of someone else's money. Even the mistakes you make, because you make some at work, don't you? Yeah, it's his money now that you're learning that. So I think go through your learning phase comfortably, but remain with that hunger for doing something. And again, I think uniquely, because you're now part of this entity, challenge yourself to see which ways they can improve. And I think one thing you could actually use, you see how you're being employed now? That's not your business. But I want to challenge you. I don't know which role you're serving in now at the entity, but I want to challenge you to develop the mind of the business owner. See that business as your own. Okay? And start to give it the same kind of heart and attention and focus as if it were your own business. You'll get the perfect training, because where you see wastage, you'll be the first person to call it out to ensure there's no wastage. Where you see delay in client, maybe communications, you'll be the first person to ensure that, okay, just make sure the client is informed and updated. When you're doing BOQs, you'll be the person really giving the utmost attention to make sure that everything you've posted the right price. When you're done, before you hand over your project to the client, you'll be the one that is really concerned that you're handing over a fully fledged, fine piece of work. So, for me, my biggest challenge to you now, take up that business. In quotes, of course. Take up that business and own that business. See yourself as a business owner. See it as your very own. It will impact the time you get to work. It will impact the quality of work you do. It will impact how you treat the clientele. It will be the best training ever for you before you step into your business. And one may wonder, why am I asking him to do that now? Do you realize before you challenge yourself to see yourself as a business owner, there are still some things you never know? You walk in, you just, do you have premises, for example, at where you're working now? Like business offices for the business, something like that?
The offices are here at African. African.
Hotel African.
Yeah.
Do you know how much rent they pay there? Now, those are the questions you should start asking yourself. Because they will help you start to appreciate where the value lies. Ask yourself why that business is at African. Ask yourself how much is paid in terms of rent there. You may not need to go being nosy in people's, but ask yourself what it takes to actually have this team of staff and how much they are paid. How the person sources clientele. The journey of really building trust and confidence in the client. And where the business right now must be having some target market. Some people are choosing to do domestic markets, and people are going for the diaspora market, the likes of the hard worker class. They're going specifically. I think one of the best books I've read is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, there's something that really encourages where you start with the end in mind. Okay? Starting with the end in mind. That is why, even when you're pursuing business, there must be an end in your mind. Like, what is it that you want? What does the final picture look like for you? You see how painters can put up a very good piece on a white piece of paper? Like, in their mind, they already have what that thing should look like. And that's what gives them the decision to choose where to start, or how to begin the process. So, if you ask yourself the question of when in a business should I tell this is actually a dead end, or should I continue? The reminder of having that end in mind, that final picture that you have, is what drives everything you do now. It's what drives everything you're doing now. If you're doing property management at this stage, I do not know what your dream is in terms of the bigger picture. But that bigger picture will really guide you in terms of what you're doing now. And you will easily know whether you should quit a certain business or find ways of making it work, because your dream is the other bigger picture. So my ask to all of you, regardless of what you're doing now, is to have that final picture in your mind. All of us have a dream in our minds. Okay? So there's something that God planted in your mind right now. You know it best. It doesn't need anybody to have given it or told you to do that thing. And these are words of Dr. Miles Monroe. May his soul rest in peace. Everybody, by the grace of God, was given a vision. There's something you want to be, there's something you want to do. Somehow, not the ones of P2 where you want to be a doctor, well, not those ones. But now, when your sense of mind has been developed, there's something you know you want to be. Now, that thing is your North Star, is what should really guide all your decisions now. So when you have that thing clearly in mind, it will genuinely guide you on deciding where you know what, I am done with this. The extent it has gone doesn't align with the other final picture. But sometimes you may face difficulty in something, but genuinely when you know this is where you have to be for you to hit the other, and you know that, you know what, I will persist. Come rain, come shine. Because this is what now walks me to my dream. I can't quit. Like, the only way out is to stay in. So that for me is something I generally have used in some scenarios where I assess an issue. If it doesn't align with the other end goal, I will easily see that this is something that will be a dead end. I will try the other, which could better align. And I understand that sometimes maybe it's not as obvious. It doesn't necessarily connect, that this will connect to the other, but I am challenging us to have the bigger picture. Start with the end in mind, like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People advisors. Start with the end in mind. When you start with that end in mind, you will really be better guided in terms of the decisions. Because I can tell you, in similar scenarios where people quit for some businesses, some people have even persisted further at levels where some people quit. But it's because, what's the bigger dream? One of my very good friends, about a year ago, made a decision to shift and go to Canada completely and stay there. He has a full family, he has a wife, he has children who are going to school, he had a job, the wife had a job. But he made the decision to leave Uganda and go settle in Canada, completely with his family. If you put yourselves in this person's shoes, the bigger picture must have been something unique for them. And when I had a conversation with him, he told me, for me, it's purely the children. Full stop. Everything else for me doesn't, I have the job, for me it's the children. This is the kind of life I want for them. Now that's the bigger picture in mind. How many of us would leave Uganda to go and move to another country and stay there completely with your wife and children? How many of us would do that? You see how there's only one? Oh, there are 2 hands in the room. I wouldn't do that either. But they would do that. You get the point? I do not know why, Francisco, you would not do that, but you also have your reason. You get the point? So that, for me, is a reminder that as we pursue whatever we pursue in life, please have the end goal in mind. Have that bigger picture in mind. It's the star that should guide you. That's why I can tell you, I'm not ask that question now, but if I ask a question in Kampala, how many of us would steal or rob or even kill for money? And people will raise their hands. Because for them, the end goal has no connection to being nice or being humane or whatever. For them, the end goal is simply money. And then some people will say, no, but my dignity, how can I do that? My faith, Maybe in the long run, somebody wants to live a life and will be remembered as somebody that lived with faith, respect, ethics. For them, that's what matters. So remember that end goal all the time. I've seen people that have quit jobs like in the most random ways, and I'm like, my goodness, how could you do that? But for them, there's something in their mind. Like the end goal doesn't relate to what this job is giving them right now. Like completely, they feel, I'm doing nothing here, I'm wasting my time. That is why people will take radical decisions to change and go to another country. And some people would never do that. So the point at which you might say you want to quit in your business is really mainly determined by what the end goal is. I have encouraged him to stay at that job and learn, because he helped me understand what the end goal in his mind is. He said he already registered a company. The end goal, the civil engineer, he wants to run a construction business. Now because of that end goal in mind, if he told me he was in a school teaching SST, but they pay him well, I would tell him to quit the next day. Because there's no learning that aligns with running a construction company. But he tells me he has a job somewhere in a good company where he's learning. I may not have asked him about how much he earns, but I told him for me that doesn't matter, even if they don't pay you now. What you're getting there now is the learning that you need at this point in your life. You're learning as much as you can, you're being exposed to different facets of the business. Your job now, learn. Why? The end goal is to run a construction entity. So that for me is the differentiator. The end goal, that final picture, that dream that you have in your mind that God blessed there. If it is there, plus people will even see you like, I'm not doing random things and they'll say, this person is crazy, but for you, you know what's in your head. So that's the best way I can answer the question, Francisco. I hope that helps. So I don't know what your end goal might be in business or in life, but if the property management has a way to line with it, trust me, like keep in line. But if you ever find yourself that you have lost the connection completely, know that in any way you may do this all your life, but you will never connect to the other final picture. Friends, it was a pleasure speaking to you. It was nice engaging. I'm sorry because of time.